Holy frickin' blizzard. A little bit of a pause right now, but man, was it coming down this morning. So I'm hiding in the hay barn for a little bit, trying to figure out what the heck I'm gonna do today. I got to smoke some salmon today. I made my, making a video, how to smoke salmon without a smoker, meaning if you're not into buying one of those $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 smokers, which I'm not, it's very, very easy to do, and it's probably, as far as I'm concerned, the best way to smoke salmon. But anyways, before I forget, while I was away, had an Alaskan biologist, author, send me a couple books in it. I'm quite sure you're probably watching. Thank you again. And but I was away when they were sent, and Sarah put them underneath the shelf in my desk. And of course, by the time I got back, was gone a month almost. All hell breaks loose, and it's tough for me to. A lot of things slip my mind. So I did a search in the email, got the last email from this biologist, and I'm gonna share it with you guys right away. All right. Alright, I'll read the whole thing. I was going to skip through to the meat of it, but here we go. Puzzle pieces shared with us. Dear Steve, thank you for your genius and courage in finally getting an open forum platform to help the thousands of good people who deserve to have their experiences told. You may use my name, J. Robert Alley, as well as any of the names and accounts in 2 of my books I would like to send you. Raincoat Sasquatch and a recent collection, please excuse the title, Brushes with Bigfoot. Nothing wrong with the title, man. I'll get a postal address for you. Got it. The 4-year internet platform for sharing a few books with first-hand experiences was about all people could have to get honest information out there, apart from what First Nations knowledge was kept within the non-judgmental boundaries of their communities. What you and the thousands who have shared on this platform have done has helped bring critical thinking and open-mindedness to a lot of people whose lives have been affected by fear and ridicule. 3 years ago, at a Sasquatch conference, where I was sharing First Nation accounts, I was approached by a USFS ranger who had been working in Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. The ranger had a trail sighting of a 7.5-foot Sasquatch walk across the trail 50 yards in front of him and his mount. The horse startled, but fortunately only swiveled his ears like antennas and whipped. The ranger reported that when signing the typed copy of the supervisor had made out, the supervisor brought out a man he introduced as agent, name not given, from the FBI, adding, quote, "You'll just need to sign this non-disclosure agreement," end quote. The ranger did not give any specific details, locations, or names, but it's not surprising that governmental disclosure is only starting to happen in the U.S. at the state level, as evidenced in the Ohio Department of Natural Resources 4-part blog on, quote, Bigfoot, end quote. I was sad to hear of Mr. Macaroni's passing. There's a hilly range somewhere here in the Pacific Northwest called Horse Heaven Hills. I'd like to thank those of us who've had the wonderful company of animals in our lives. Are sure to connect with them again, as I'm sure you will. The 3rd email you read on Friday, July 2nd, that opened with a reference to the Owl Man, was a great share, and I was amazed at how well it resonated with what both wise old hunters and First Nation witnesses have related. Thank you, Steve, and all who have shared with us through your platform for your courage and integrity. A lot of us older folks love the outdoors, but have gotten stuck indoors and miss hiking, hunting, backpacking, or fishing. We really appreciate the forest, muskeg, and mountain scenes that I'm sure you work hard to deliver. What a blast. Just find more steelhead shots, will ya? I'm working on it. Thanks again, Steve, for all you're doing, and much joy in your newer, more peaceful surroundings. Yours truly, J. Robert Alley. Thank you for the emails. Thanks for sending the books. I believe I asked you before if there's any specific you wanted me to share out of that, and I think you said anything. But once I get some time, I'll rip through it. I'll see if there's something in there that can really possibly have a big impact on our family of friends here, right? Now, I'm going to get into some more emails shared here. Mark this as red. Yeah, and it turns out I purchased your book earlier, the Raincoat Sasquatch one too. I have it. So thank you so much for sending those to me. Title Sasquatch. Dear Steve, I've had a few encounters in my lifetime, but I didn't know what I was experiencing until I found your videos. I live in Southern Oregon, 20 miles from the Oregon Caves. My first experience was 1989, after dark, in the Althouse Creek drainage. I got a horrible smell like a garbage bear crossed with the worst mangy wet dog crossed with a hippie. I haven't smelt too many hippies. Just kidding. It's absolutely horrible, and the feeling of doom. I left the area and didn't know what it was. The next experience, I was in Brookings, Oregon. I was steelhead fishing 22 miles out of Brookings in the wilderness. Something was throwing very large boulders into the river. I thought it was a fisherman messing with me. After watching your videos, I realized what I had been experiencing. The next experience was in the Canyon Creek area. There's a place I always go to look for gold on one of my mining claims. One day I was driving up there with my wife, and we both got this overwhelming feeling of imminent doom and dread, and my hair went to wire. We left immediately and never went back. In August 2019, while driving my UTV to one of my bear hunting spots, I looked to my left, and about 60 yards away was a very large, dark, hairy figure standing next to a tree watching me. I didn't say a word to anyone because I could not believe what I'd seen. I've hunted and fished Southern Oregon my whole life, and I do have a little fear now of what is out there. Thank you for all you do. You can use my name, Robert Nolan, Cave Junction, Oregon. Robert, thanks for that, man. I'm pretty certain that what you just shared today is probably going to enlighten a shit pile of people who frequent the same places you named here, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if you just caused a knee-jerk reaction for somebody who's been holding it in a long time to hit the keyboard and start sharing with all of you through me. The inbox, I hit the inbox this morning over breakfast, and it is absolutely freaking jam loaded. There's so many people coming forward right now. It's like a tsunami of truth. It's amazing how courage and bravery spreads throughout all of you, right? When you make it about the people. It's the one thing that's really having an impact on my mind is the fact that once the people gain control of whatever narrative it is, the people, shit happens. There's no two ways about it. And then once you see that firsthand and watch what's going down with this immense crowd of people right here on this channel alone, and then I look at other topics going on the planet and see what a power struggle it has been. What a power struggle it has been for the control freaks, the evil bastards. How they have managed to keep so many people suppressed. It's amazing to me. It's really amazing as I watch people. I've shared with you guys before that I find it more amazing to watch humans and their reactions to life than it is about this topic here, right? To me. You know, I saw a quick video, as an example, I saw a quick video the other day of that fat little prick in North Korea. That little pork chop. And he's getting out of a train somewhere, I think in Russia or something, and he's actually got a staff of these clowns, these spineless clowns, who are scrambling, trying to roll out a red carpet for him to walk onto when he gets off of a train. It's absolutely amazing to me how one human being can have that kind of control and intimidation over millions of people. Is that not scarier than shit? Is that not something worth fighting to prevent? Believe me, there is a lot of pieces of shit like him in North America that would love to be able to do the same as him. Guaranteed. Pretty creepy, isn't it? You know how many people would take if that guy just stepped 1 foot out of his little comfort zone there, anybody could kick the shit out of that little pork chop in a second. Alright, sorry. I'm going on a tangent. What am I doing with these stupid glasses? Alright, here we go. Let's get back on track here. I did a little too much reading this morning. Big Furry Visitor. Hi, Steve. Don't use my name. No problem, man. After hearing out the stories from Wisconsin, I figured I would share mine. That's how it's been going. As soon as somebody hears similar zone, it's the knee-jerk reaction to get it out. 5 years ago, we moved from West Central to Northwest Wisconsin, within an hour of the Big Muskie. Our first summer here, on an overcast, drizzly day, my wife and daughter were in the shop out back, and I heard large, heavy footstep sounds outside between the shop and the river 50 yards away. It spooked them, so they came to the house and got me to go check it, roughly 10:30 a.m. I took a weapon with me as we had previously had some bear issues. I stood under the lean-to on the back of the shop to stay out of the drizzle. And within a few minutes, I too heard the footfalls, like stomping across packed forest base. That kind of hollow ground sound when you run in the woods. I heard these footfalls both between me and the river, mostly trees and brush, and between our shop and our neighbor's house 100 yards away, mostly field. I walked over near the barn doors on the shop and leaned the weapon against the open door. When I turned around and watched towards the river, a large black figure darted from behind a pine tree and across to another section of trees maybe 20 feet away and was gone. It moved a branch with its head, but didn't make a sound. It didn't leave a track. I've hunted all my life. I have no clue what this was. It wasn't a bear or a deer. When I measured the branch, it moved to the ground. It was 9 feet. I'm an experienced trapper. Leave out. Okay, hold on. I'm a blank because you said leave out. I could find no, in brackets, I could find no sign of track, hair, anything that showed something had passed except the moving branch. I didn't see it clear enough to claim it was a blank, but if I was to guess, I can only claim a Bigfoot, as no other North American animal fits what I saw. And as others have claimed, when it reached a V, or doorway between trees, it was just gone. But I didn't see any sparkles or portals. An ATV trail is to the one side, and a clearing to the woods. Alright guys, I gotta interrupt this for 1 second. If there's something in your story you want me to leave out, don't put it in, because I read right by it, and then all of a sudden I get to bracket, leave out, and bracket, and then it's like, oh shit. Then it screws me up for the read, alright? So, I gotta leave out that sentence, I guess. Then it goes to, after you said leave out, and could find no sign of track, hair, anything that showed something had passed except the moving branch. I didn't see it clear enough to claim it was a blank. But if I was to guess, I could only claim a Bigfoot, as no other North American animal fits what I saw. And as others have claimed, when it reached a V, or a doorway between trees, it was just gone. But I didn't see any sparkles or portals. An ATV trail is to one side, and a clearing in the woods just past where it went, and it never crossed either of them. Since then, my daughter has had rocks playfully tossed at her from the riverside of our property, brushy area, while waiting for the school bus several times, and we hear grunts and the occasional wood knock at times. Roughly a year after this, a lady that works for the county saw one cross the road maybe 5 miles north of my house. I was told she was a non-believer until that point by a close friend of hers and a mutual acquaintance. To this day, I can honestly call it Bigfoot. To this day I can't honestly call it Bigfoot, but I've never seen something like that in Wisconsin or anywhere before. It was a tall, humanoid, furry, and dark brown. If it's a woodland creature, it's safe here until it tries to hurt us. If it's a government creature, ain't much I can do about it anyway. Stay safe, Steve. Wisconsin. Well, I think the dog's about to rip into a chicken over there. Yeah, it's the disappearing thing. It's something, isn't it? And it's a detail that probably more people leave out than not, right? Because it's too hard for the average human brain to even wrap around the possibility of that shit going down. But for me, in my mind, not dictating to you, for my puzzle, for my ride, there's been far too many people who've seen that, didn't ask for it, weren't avid Sasquatch enthusiasts, and dedicating their entire life to being obsessed about the topic or the beings. They're just normal, average, everyday people, from professionals to non-professionals, seeing that same thing, seeing the thing frickin' disappear. So, for me, when you get hundreds, if not thousands of people not connected around the world reporting that same detail, I'm down with believing. I'm not a dummy. It's like when the Europeans first came to this land, and then all the First Nations told them about these hairy giants, and how many of the original North Americans scoffed at it and kicked it aside. You're a dummy. Right? You imagine you go to a foreign country, foreign land, and the people whose generations went back hundreds of generations all told you flat out what's running around up in that mountain. And you actually decide that you are the one who's eligible to laugh and tell them, no, they're lying. Dumbasses. Okay, here we go. Got to get on with another one. Both my buddy's tractor gets kicked out of reverse here quick. What do we got here? Mark this as red. Two encounters, 46 years apart. First encounter. I live in the city of Sulphur Springs in northeast Texas. The area surrounding Sulphur Springs is dense with oak and pine forests, lots of cow pastures, and very few homes. In 1975, we worked long hours and then played hard during our precious time off. One particular rare weekend off, a co-worker, his family and mine decided to go camping on private land in the Sulphur River bottom north of town. The entrance into this area was fairly open cow pasture with a few trees scattered about. The place where we camped was by a 3-acre stock pond that was teeming with catfish and bass. Behind this pond was a thick forest that joined the Sulphur River and beyond. There was no homes for several miles and very little people activity was ever present in this area. We were truly off the grid. We planned to camp and fish starting on Friday afternoon until Sunday afternoon. We got camp set up about 4 o'clock Friday and started fishing in the pond. By around 6 o'clock, we had enough catfish for a nice fish fry, or freshly caught catfish. We had a campfire going about 20 feet from one end of our large canvas tent and had cooked baked potatoes in the coals of the fire. We all had a great meal and settled in for a good night's sleep in the tent. My wife and I were sleeping on cots at one end of the tent, and my friend, his wife, and 3 children were sleeping on a mattress placed on the floor at the opposite end of the tent. At about 11 p.m., I had just went to sleep and was hearing a strange noise. But the noise was not waking me up. All of a sudden, my wife nudged me and, with fright in her voice, said, "Do you hear that?" That brought me to full attention. I sat up on the edge of the cot, and my wife sitting close by my side. I grabbed my rifle and sat listening to the strange, shrill sound. As the strange, shrill sound got louder and closer to the tent, there was no doubt the sound, and whatever was making it, was getting very close to the tent. We could hear brush cracking as it was moving closer to us across the pond's dam. The window flaps in the tent were closed, and our friends were sound asleep at the end of the tent closest to the now smoldering campfire and closest to the pond's dam. The sound stopped, but we could hear a rustling sound right outside the tent around the smoldering campfire. After it seemed like a long time, it was probably less than a minute after the shrill sound stopped, something started scratching on the end of the tent where my friend and his family slept. At this time, I started calling his name softly to get his attention. He continued to sleep, and about that time, whatever was outside the tent started pushing the whole side of the tent in. I yelled at my friend, and by the time he woke up, the entire side of the top of the tent was almost completely collapsed on top of him and his family. In the blink of an eye, my friend was awake and now sitting by me and my wife in our cot. Now, I was raised on a farm, was taught how to use guns from a very early age. Besides never letting the muzzle of a gun cross anything you don't want to shoot, I was also taught to make sure and to know what your target was before you shoot. By now, the creature outside our tent was pushing the tent in and letting it spring out, then pushing it in again. It was now making a grunting sound with every push. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the tent window flap was closed, so we could not see what was outside our tent. I had my rifle pointed at the end of the tent with the safety off. I could clearly see where the creature was by the indentations made on the wall on the tent. By now, we were beyond frightened. We were terrified. The only time in my life that I felt that way. I came so close to shooting through the tent wall that it scares me to this day, but I truly had no idea what was only 12 feet away from us. I had my rifle shouldered, finger on the trigger, safety off, just waiting to see what the creature's next move was. As the grunting and pushing got more intense, we started yelling as loud as we could. The activity outside the tent stopped immediately, and we could hear the creature running and crashing through the forest at a tremendous rate of speed, and with one last scream, the sound disappeared into the thick wooded area. We all sat there speechless, trying to comprehend what had just taken place. No one was making a sound, but everyone was awake and alert. We sat in the tent until daybreak, rifle still in my hand, and only a few comments between us as to what we had experienced. At daybreak, I ventured outside the tent. I surveyed the area and saw a few potatoes we had not eaten, had the aluminum foil unwrapped from them, and 2 or 3 were half eaten. There was a limb that had been in the campfire laying by the end of the tent, and there were several black charcoal marks all up and down the end of the tent. I returned to the tent and gave the all clear. We then, without discussing it, started breaking camp. We got everything packed and left about 8 a.m. Saturday morning. We never saw what was outside the tent, nor did we look for tracks. Our only objective was to break camp and get out of the Sulphur River bottom ASAP. We did not talk much about our experience that night, but through the years, it has stayed vividly fresh in our minds. I got rid of the tent about 5 years ago, and the black scratches were still visible on the end of it. Sounds I heard that night, I've never heard again, and I spent hours and hours in the woods and on area lakes. Fast forward 46 years to the spring of 2021. Encounter number 2. We still live in the city of Sulphur Springs, and my wife and I fish for catfish in area lakes. On this April morning, the air was crisp and clean, and we arrived at Lake Winnsboro, deep in East Texas, about 35 miles from our home. We arrived at 4 a.m. and we're the only ones at the boat ramp. Lake Winnsboro is a 900-acre lake located at a very isolated area of Wood County, Texas. There was steam gently rising from the water of the lake, and we were wearing light jackets because of the crisp, cool morning. My wife and I have our right-to-carry license, and I was packing a 9mm Smith & Wesson. My wife is unarmed. We have a routine to prepare our boat for launch, and we are carrying out each of our tasks. In front of where we had parked is an open area about 200 yards wide, adjoining a heavily wooded area. My wife was up in the boat situating her equipment, and I was outside the boat doing launch preparations. My wife had a flashlight, which can cast a very bright light 900 yards away, but we had the light turned on low as the bright setting was blinding at close range inside the boat. I was on the starboard side of the boat, up front, placing running lights, and my wife was now sitting in the driver's seat of the boat, which is also on the starboard side. From out of nowhere, there was a scream that came from a distance in front of our truck and echoed through the forest and across the lake. I've heard mountain lion screams, and this was a sound that I had never heard, except one time 46 years ago in the Sulphur River bottom. Chills came across my body as the screams continued, and was definitely getting closer and much louder. I froze in place trying to decide what we needed to do. Get my wife out of the boat and into the truck, or should I get into the boat? As the screams got louder and closer, I could tell the creature was definitely in the open field in front of our truck. By now, as fast as the creature was moving, based on the sound of the screams, I decided there was not time to get my wife out of the boat and into the truck. Wow, that sucker was moving, huh? I could tell by the sound the creature was making that it was very upset we were there. I drew my pistol and started moving to get into the boat. My wife, still sitting in the driver's seat of the boat, turned on the flashlight and shined it across the field. Now the flashlight was still on low setting, and she was too startled to switch it to bright. Upon shining light across the field, the screaming stopped, and my wife said, "I can see its eyes. It's tall, and now just standing in the field." I was still on the ground. From my vantage point, could not see what she was seeing. The creature stood still for a few seconds, then started screaming and retreating back into the woods. We could hear brush cracking, and the continued screams faded in the distance. We stayed quiet once again, trying to process what we had just experienced. When we did start to speak, I said, "Let's get this boat launched before it decides to come back." The rest of the day went by uneventful, with vertigo, a little discussion of our early morning experience. On the way home, my wife started describing what she had seen in the dim light of the flashlight. She said the eyes appeared to be about 7 feet off the ground, set wide apart, and glowed brightly in the dim light. Unfortunately, that was all she could see. After this encounter, I started researching all material I could find about Bigfoot, sort of an obsession that I could not ignore. That's how I came across your channel, and felt I had to share experiences with you and your followers. We have told very few people about our experiences, and really they and really they listen, but really don't believe us, even though they know we don't go around making up stories. I know these 2 stories are long, but we just had to tell someone who believes. Well, you found the right place. You just found around 250,000 people who are interested in what you got to say. Now, let the flood of emails come in from those areas now. Now that you shared, I will guarantee you somebody from your area in those areas is about to email me what they saw and heard, without a doubt. That's what's going on today. Every single time someone emails and shares the place, somebody else has something to share from that same place. It's not going to end. It's not going to end. It's funny, when I wake up in the morning and find so many more emails jammed in, it just gives me the energy. It makes me really want to get as many shared as I can. But I have to try to cut this short here in a minute so I can get my other things done. Lots of Signs in the Woods, titled. Steve, I spent quite a bit of time in northeastern California. Until now, I've seen and even smelled things that... Until now, I've seen and even smelled things that not until I started following you, I took with a grain of salt. That being said, I have a few experiences pale to what some have experienced, but nonetheless, I haven't forgotten any of them. It was the hunting season of '79. I was on my usual 2 weeks of hunting. So being I was a young 21 years of age, I was all over the mountains in search of a good buck. But one day I hiked back to this area and came across all these trees that were bent over, most of which formed a teepee-type configuration. And at that time, I thought it was from the heavy snow from the winter, but as I kept going, I noticed a terrible smell, like of a rotting deer or other animal, but there was none to be found. Then my first experience happened as it sounded like a hardball baseball bat being hit on a tree. I stopped to listen as that was the only sound at the time. No birds, no squirrels, chipmunks, or anything. Just the beating sound. So after a while I thought, this isn't right, and I backed out of there and didn't stop till I got to my truck. I hunted with friends that owned an overnight trailer resort as I used my parents' trailer for the hunting season. Well, I got back, but I didn't mention anything that I experienced, but the prop that lived off-grid would stop at their store and shoot the breeze. The prop that lived off-grid would stop at the store, shoot the breeze for a while, and it was then, maybe you met the cop? And it was then that one of them stopped by to complain about the kids coming out by them and partying, or so they thought, and in this story the husband stated that they had big feet as they weren't wearing shoes, as he found their footprints by where they were supposed to be partying. I know my story is long, but it leads to many things, but I never got to see one, and from the stories you get, maybe that was best. My last experience is when my cousin went elk hunting out of the Burns, Oregon. It was clear and very cold, between 4 and 7 degrees most days, and we went on our afternoon hunt. I went up the road, and my cousin went the opposite direction. I found a spot where I had a good view, and decided I would just stay put. When the forest again went silent, my hair stood up on my neck and arms. I knew something was up. Then the baseball bat beating sound started. First one hit, then multiple hits, but I didn't hear any reply. And so, with the light fading fast, I started back to the truck when I got the feeling that I was being watched. I felt that I was being paralleled all the way to the Y in the road. I asked my cousin if he heard the bat sounds, and he didn't, but made a joke of sorts, like, "What, did you hear Bigfoot?" Well, that's it for now. Keep up the good work. I think you said not to use your name, didn't you? Nope, I'm going to share it. Forrest Ebert. Forrest, thanks for that, man. Thanks for that share. You know what, you guys? I'm not giving it too much attention, but we had the bad smell in the yard 2 different nights now. This past week and a half, 2 weeks. I'm not looking for anything, but we've had it. I smelt it, and there's nothing on a property that smells like that. I've looked around. It is what it is, as long as the animals stay alive and nothing gets stolen or broken. It just is what it is. And I also told you guys that there's a post on social media about bright lights being seen just over here from numerous people in the community. Shit's going on. Shit's going on. Always has gone on, always will go on. There's far too many people coming forward right now. Cat's out of the bag, man, like I said earlier. Have a few people who've got a hold of me recently and have some substantial videos they want to share, want to discuss sharing. They're a little hesitant, but we'll see what comes. For any of you out there who have a picture, photograph, or an email, or a video that you are hesitant to, or scared to share, you're gonna get the exact same answer out of me if you contact me. Screw them. And that's the nicest way I'm gonna put it. Screw them. Don't be scared of nothing. Don't be scared of anything. You share it with all the people. And if you want to share it with the people through me, the door is wide open. You know I'm gonna do it. And if you want me to share your name, I'll share it. If you don't want me to share your name, I'm not gonna share it. As proven as we go. Here's one with a common thought. The title. The title is, I Think I'm Crazy. So do I. Hello, 37. Been born and raised hunting and fishing in Washington State. I hear all these stories online and even from people I know about strange things being heard and seen in the woods. I also heard some things I can't explain. What happened to me this year elk hunting freaked me out to the core. I wish I would have seen Bigfoot, but it would make my story easier to explain. I feel crazy. I don't even want to share this with you. I went hunting alone for the weekend. It was the last day and I packed up camp and decided to drive up and scout out a new area I've never seen. This road had a lot of potholes, so I decided to pull over and check my tires. As I checked all the tires, I heard something across the road in front of me. I grabbed my gun, loaded a shell, and started to look for what was in the woods. I finally seen it, a mule deer. Then I started hearing movement on the opposite side I seen the deer on. So I figured it might be a buck since the rut is going on. I stand there for like 5 minutes. I hear 2 buck from what I can hear. That's what it says. There was a fresh coat of snow on the ground, so I started looking for tracks to see where the doe had crossed the road. I found tracks, and in my mind I think, oh shit, bear tracks. But I started looking closely at the track, and I'm thinking, those aren't bear tracks. The tracks had toes, and like 2 small pads behind the toes. I should have taken a picture. I could hear the bucks moving up the side of the road away from me. I wanted to drive past them and cut them off and watch them cross the road just to see how big these bucks are. I drive up the road and pull over. I can hear one that passed me even further up the road and one slowly working its way to me. Bucks are bulls. This must be bulls if you're hearing them. Then it goes silent for 5 minutes. I'm standing there like, what are these bucks doing? I'm going to say you must have meant bulls. I grab my binoculars and I'm scanning up and down the road both ways. Then I hear a noise like a hissing noise. And I see it in the woods. It's getting dark, so it's even darker in the woods. There is a 12-foot embankment in front of me, looking into the woods, and it flattens out. I pull out my binoculars and start focusing them. I see this thing. I'm confused on what I'm seeing. I can hear it making noises from its mouth, like snarling and gargling. I move my binoculars down the body and it looked like it had some kind of armor on or clothing. About 4 feet tall. Looked like it had a spear or something, I don't know. Then it turned and looked at me. It was something out of a fairy tale book. I got the worst chills over my body, like I am right now writing this. I yelled out loud, said, I gotta get the hell out of here. I got in my truck, I had to turn around and drive past that same spot. I almost stopped, asked myself, do I shoot this thing? But I kept on driving. I told my wife about it. I told her I have to go back up and look around, or at least get pictures of the tracks. So I go back up the next morning. The snow had melted, so I didn't get any pictures of the tracks. Forced myself into the woods and looked around and didn't find anything. So now, I'm just making excuses for what I've seen and trying to forget. Whatever it was seemed human-like, but wild. A troll, a little Bigfoot, a demon, I don't know what I saw. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. Thanks for allowing me to write, you, and share. You can share, but not my name, thanks. Alright, I didn't share your name. Oh, that's interesting. That's a little weird. we'll see what happens. Maybe keep an eye in the comment section below. If somebody's seen something like that, especially in the same area, you're gonna hear about it in the comment section below. I'm pretty sure. I forgot I wanted to mention something about portals. Now, what I was thinking about the other day was with the portal thing. If it is a doorway into a parallel world or existence, it must be frickin' pretty damn tightly monitored, wouldn't you think? Because if you really seriously think about it, I haven't put too much thought into time into portals myself, but I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm thinking possibly is a portal possibly not another place or not another world. So just possibly a way that these things can gap out and leave our physical sight for a time being. Because what I'm thinking is if there was possibly, let's just say some kind of a weird doorway to another world, another existence, we'll call it a portal, there would be plant life, matter, wind would blow leaves through those portals, insects would come through, the odd small animal, don't you think? Don't you think there'd be a whole pile of shrapnel coming in and out of those portholes into our existence by accident? Right? It's just like the door of your house. You know, you might open it and close it in a couple seconds, but eventually those insects, a mouse, a small bird will fly through it by accident. And we're not getting inundated with thousands of reports of weird insects never seen before, or small mammals, or reptiles, or a tiny dinosaur creature. We're not getting those. We're not getting those reports, right? But don't you think that if it was a clear doorway to another world, other shit's going to come through there nonstop? And then how many portals are there? Right? Somebody out there is going to tap into what I just said and share what they know, or what they feel, what they think. But just so you know, I haven't put too much time into the portal thing myself, okay? But that's what I was thinking the other day. Maybe what these beings can do is just blip out of our physical sight when they feel it's necessary to remain hidden, and then possibly when it's good again, they blip back into this reality again. Maybe, possibly, I don't know. But I know one thing, that shit is going down. Some strange shit is going down when it comes to these things coming and going, disappearing from our sight. It's just, I find it funny that there isn't multiple other species or vegetation or leaves blowing in the wind that make it through these portals, if that's what they are, right? Anyway, getting back to what you just saw, let's see if somebody contacts you through the comment section below and adds to it, or also shares an experience with the exact same description. You never know, right? Because we definitely don't know everything, but we're learning a lot more. Ugh, here comes the wet snow blizzard crud again. I got stuff to do. I got a bunch of fish I got to smoke now. So here I go. I'll be back again later. Keep sending that shit in and I'll get to it. And a side note, you guys, I get probably 5, 10, 15 emails a day titled, you got to watch this, you got to watch this, you got to watch this. Just so you know, I probably have enough video links emailed me now that if I were to start watching them all, I'd probably have to sit on my ass for about 4 years straight. Okay, you guys? So please try, and I know it's all in good intentions. I know it is, and I appreciate it muchly, but please possibly try not to send me video links to watch, okay? Because first, I don't have time, and secondly, I'm getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them nonstop. And what I'm after is, I'm after all of the people who are troubled, have had a shit-eating experience, need their respect and their sanity given back to them, and a safe place to share what they saw, what they experienced. That's what we're after here, okay, you guys? Anyway, gotta go. I'll be back.